when a billionaire mother sees a humble waitress whisper to her disabled daughter. She discovers a truth no amount of money could ever end. It changes their lives forever. Alina Carter was a woman who seemed to have everything the world could ever offer. She owned companies that stretched across continents. Her face appeared on magazine covers. And her name was spoken in boardrooms with admiration and respect. To the outside world, she was the perfect example of success, a billionaire who had built an empire through her intelligence, determination, and never-ending willpower. People looked at her as someone who lived a dream life, but very few knew what her nights were like when she returned home. When the weight of her private world fell on her shoulders and the glitter of money and power could not hide the cracks, in her heart, her mansion stood on a hill outside the city, built with glass walls that reflected the sky and wide gardens filled with roses and fountains. Every corner of that house spoke of wealth, yet inside, there was a silence that sometimes felt heavier than stone. The only sound that truly mattered to her was the gentle breathing of her daughter, Lily. From the moment Lily was born, Elena's life changed in ways she had never imagined. Doctors had told her that Lily had a condition that would make her growth and communication difficult. The little girl had bright eyes and a smile that could melt anyone's heart, but she struggled to walk like other children and found it hard to speak words clearly. While other mothers heard their children calling Mama for the first time, Elena waited years and still longed for that one word from Lily's lips. Elena's love for her daughter was endless, but it was tied to fear and guilt. She asked herself almost every night whether she had done something wrong, whether her busy life as a businesswoman had caused some unseen harm during her pregnancy, whether the universe was punishing her for her ambition. These thoughts haunted her even though the doctors had explained many times that it was nobody's fault. Still, Alina could not stop the questions in her mind. Whenever she looked at Lily, she felt an ache that no amount of money could heal. She had the power to buy anything: cars, jewelry, private jets, even entire companies. But she could not buy a simple conversation with her daughter, or the chance to see her running freely on the grass like other children her age. She poured everything she could into Lily's care. The best doctors in the country were on call for her. Therapists came to the house every week. Special equipment was brought in from abroad to make life easier for her daughter. Yet despite all of it, the progress was slow. Lily would smile. She would laugh softly. She would point to things she liked, but long sentences never came. When she tried to form words, they would often tumble out half-shaped, leaving her frustrated. Alina would encourage her, clap for her, hug her tightly. But when she went to bed at night, she would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering whether Lily felt trapped inside her own silence. In public, Alina was even more protective. She avoided crowded places, large gatherings, and parties where her daughter might feel out of place. The media was always curious, and photographers had once tried to snap pictures of Lily when she was still very small. That incident had made Alina furious. From that day on, she guarded her daughter from cameras and strangers, determined that no one would turn Lily into a headline or gossip story. She wanted her child to live with dignity, without pitying stares or whispered judgments. But this protective shield also meant that Lily had very little contact with the outside world. Her world was her mother, her caregivers, and the few trusted friends who came to visit. Alina wondered if she was doing the right thing, or if her own fear was building invisible walls around her daughter's life. Despite these heavy emotions, there were moments of joy that kept Alina going. Early mornings when Lily would stretch her arms and crawl into her mother's lap, pressing her face against Elena's chest, were moments Alina treasured more than anything. On some evenings, when the sun poured golden light through the mansion's tall windows, Lily would watch the shadows and giggle at their shapes, and Alina would sit beside her, smiling as if the whole world existed only in that room. These small, quiet moments were more precious to her than all the awards she had ever received in her career. But the loneliness was always present. Alina rarely shared her struggles with anyone, even with her closest friends in business. To them, she was a strong, unshakable woman. If she admitted her worries, she feared it would expose her vulnerability. And in her world of billion-dollar deals, vulnerability was seen as weakness, so she kept it inside. Every board meeting, every press conference, every hand she shook, was followed by evenings of sitting beside her daughter's bed, brushing Lily's hair, whispering softly, hoping the child understood how deeply she was loved. Money had given her power, but it had also built a cage around her. And sometimes she wondered if she was the prisoner as much as her daughter was. Her relationship with Lily was more than mother and daughter. It was a bond of survival. Alina had promised herself, from the day of her daughter's birth, that she would give Lily not just protection, but also happiness. Yet happiness was harder to find than wealth. Sometimes she caught herself watching other mothers in parks laughing freely with their children, and a shadow of envy would pass through her. She quickly buried it, ashamed of feeling that way. But deep down, she longed for a life where her daughter could blend in, where people would not notice her condition first, but would see the brightness in her eyes instead. The world knew Alina Carter as someone who could command attention in a boardroom and close deals worth millions with a single word. But in her private world, she often felt powerless. She kept asking herself, what use was her empire if she could not reach into her own child's heart and bring out her voice? At times, when she sat alone in her study late at night, she would look at the photographs on her desk. They showed her achievements, shaking hands with world leaders, opening new headquarters, standing beside luxury cars. Yet the photograph she looked at the longest was the one of her holding Lily on her first birthday, the little girl resting against her shoulder, eyes wide open as if she was searching for something only she could see. It was in those quiet reflections that Alina understood something very clearly. Her life's meaning was no longer in the boardroom, the deals, or the wealth. It was in those fleeting moments when Lily's eyes lit up, when her small hand wrapped around her finger, when her laugh filled the room like music. And though Alina carried guilt, fear, and loneliness, she also carried determination. She would keep searching for ways to unlock her daughter's world, no matter how long it took. Deep in her heart, she believed there was a door waiting to be opened, a key hidden somewhere that would allow her daughter to connect more fully with the world. She did not yet know how or when it would happen, but she held on to that hope, because it was the one treasure she could not afford to lose. The day was calm, and the city carried on with its usual rhythm of noise, traffic, and rushing footsteps. For Alina, it was one of those rare afternoons when she decided to step away from her usual routine. She had finished a string of important meetings in the morning, and instead of returning home to bury herself in documents and calls, she thought of doing something unusual, something simple. She wanted to take Lily out, just the two of them. Without the bodyguards, without the luxury cars lining up behind her. She wanted for a few hours to live like an ordinary mother with her child. It wasn't easy for her to make such decisions, yet she was always concerned about how people would react when they saw her daughter. The stares, the whispers, the quick glances people tried to hide. Alina had seen them all before. Each time it cut her like glass. But that day she felt braver than usual. Maybe it was the way Lily had looked at her in the morning, with those wide, curious eyes pointing toward the window as if asking for something different. Maybe it was Elena's own heart, tired of the isolation. Whatever the reason, she made the decision quickly. She called her driver, but instead of giving the name of a five-star hotel or a private club, she asked him to take her to a quiet, family-owned restaurant she had once passed by, but never entered. The restaurant stood on a street that was far from the shiny glass towers of her business world. It had wooden doors, flower pots hanging near the windows, and the smell of freshly baked bread drifting into the street. It wasn't crowded with wealthy clients in suits, nor was it silent and stiff like the fine dining places she often visited. For work, families gathered there, friends laughed over meals, and the atmosphere was warm. As Alina stepped out of the car, holding Lily's hand, she felt something unusual, a sense of normalcy. For a moment, she wasn't a billionaire, just a mother guiding her little girl toward a meal. Inside, the place was simple but inviting. Tables covered with checkered cloth, the sound of clinking plates, and the low hum of conversations filled the air. The smell of roasted vegetables and homemade soup wrapped around them, making it feel like home. Alina chose a table near the window where Lily could watch the outside world. The little girl's eyes moved curiously, following the movements of people, the swinging door of the kitchen, and the waiters carrying trays. Alina settled her down, adjusted her chair, and brushed her hair gently from her forehead. She felt slightly nervous. Wondering if this had been the right decision, as she was adjusting herself to the place, a young waitress approached their table. She was probably in her mid-20s with kind eyes and a tired but genuine smile. Her name tag read Anna. There was nothing pretentious about her. Her uniform was simple, her shoes worn from long hours, but there was a quiet energy about her that was hard to ignore. She greeted Alina politely, then turned her gaze toward Lily. Alina prepared herself. For what usually came the pause, the awkward smile, the quick attempt to act normal before pulling away, but Anna surprised her. Instead of standing tall and speaking over Lily as if she weren't really present, she bent down to Lily's level, her eyes meeting the little girl's directly. She whispered softly, words too low for Alina to catch. And suddenly, Lily's face lit up. Her eyes widened. Her lips stretched into a smile so bright and pure that Alina almost gasped. She had not seen that kind of sparkle in Lily's expression for a long time. It was such a simple moment, yet it shook Alina deeply. She had brought her daughter to countless doctors and therapists, had spent fortunes on treatments and programs, and yet here was a young waitress, kneeling beside her daughter, whispering something that caused Lily's entire being to glow with joy. Lily's small hands clapped together, and she leaned slightly forward, as if trying to say something back. Her voice came out in broken sounds, not full words, but it was clear she was responding. Alina watched in amazement, her heart pounding. She didn't want to interrupt, didn't want the moment to end, but her mind was racing. What did this young woman say? How could she reach Lily so easily? And why did Lily respond so strongly? Anna stayed there for a few seconds longer, still smiling, before standing back up and taking Elena's order as if nothing unusual had happened. She didn't explain, didn't boast, didn't act as though she had done something extraordinary. To her it was natural. She wrote down their order, gave another warm glance at Lily, and walked toward the kitchen. Alina sat frozen for a moment, still processing what she had seen. Her daughter was still smiling, eyes fixed on the door where Anna had disappeared. She made small noises, trying to mimic what she had just heard. It was rare for Lily to get excited in public, rare for her to connect with someone new so quickly. Alina felt a rush of emotions, happiness, confusion, curiosity all mixed together. When the food arrived, Anna placed the dishes carefully on the table, again giving her attention to Lily before stepping away. Alina noticed how naturally she did it, as if she truly saw Lily. Not her condition, not her struggles, just the child she was. Throughout the meal, Alina found her eyes drifting toward the waitress, watching her move from table to table always, with the same gentle energy, but it was only with Lily that she had knelt down, whispered, and sparked that moment of magic. The meal itself passed with unusual ease. Usually dining outside came with challenges, people staring too long, Alina worrying about Lily's comfort or her daughter becoming restless. But that afternoon, Lily was calm, almost cheerful, glancing now and then at Anna whenever she walked past. Alina felt the atmosphere around her soften, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel the sharp edge of being different. Instead, she felt like just another mother sitting with her child at a restaurant, sharing a meal. When it was time to leave, Alina hesitated. She wanted to ask Anna about that whisper, about how she had managed to reach her daughter in a way that professionals hadn't, but she held back, not sure if it was the right time. Instead, she gave a polite smile, paid the bill generously, and gathered Lily's things. Before leaving, she glanced one last time at Anna. The young waitress was carrying plates to another table, her hair falling loosely from her tied bun, her face glowing with the satisfaction of serving people. She looked ordinary, but to Alina, she no longer seemed ordinary at all. As Alina walked out of the restaurant with Lily, the image of that moment stayed with her. She replayed it again and again in her mind, Anna kneeling down, whispering softly, and Lily's face lighting up like the sun breaking through clouds. Alina didn't know what it meant yet, but she felt it strongly in her heart that this small encounter in a simple restaurant was not the end of something but the beginning of something she could not yet name. Alina could not stop thinking about what had happened at the restaurant. All through the ride home, she kept glancing at Lily, who was still smiling softly, as if replaying the moment in her own little mind. Usually, after outings, her daughter would become quiet, sometimes overwhelmed by the noise and attention from the outside world. But this time, it was different. She seemed calmer, lighter, as though something inside her had been touched in a special way. Alina felt both relief and confusion. Her heart filled with questions she could not answer. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Alina sat in her study, staring at the flickering fireplace. She could not erase the image of the waitress kneeling, down, whispering, and bringing such joy to her daughter. What had Anna said? Why had Lily reacted so strongly? It wasn't just polite kindness. It was something deeper, something rare. For years, Alina had watched therapists and specialists try every method, every exercise, yet Lily had always responded only halfway, never with such sudden brightness. It felt almost like a secret language had been spoken, a door unlocked. If only for a brief moment, the next morning, Alina found herself restless. She tried to focus on her work, but her mind drifted back to that small restaurant again and again. By afternoon, she had made up her mind. She told her assistant to cancel her appointments for the evening. She wanted to go back, and this time, she wanted to watch carefully to understand what was really happening. When she entered the restaurant again with Lily by her side, Anna was there, serving as usual. The young waitress noticed them immediately, her face lighting up with recognition. She greeted them warmly and once again crouched down to greet Lily at eye level. Selena leaned forward, listening carefully, but the words were so soft that she still could not catch them. Whatever Anna said, Lily clapped her hands and giggled again, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Elena's heart tightened. This was no coincidence. During the meal, Elena's curiosity grew sharper. She noticed how Anna always took a moment with Lily, how she never rushed, never looked awkward, never avoided her gaze. She seemed to treat her daughter not as a child with limitations, but as a whole person who deserved respect and connection. Lily responded each time, her face glowing with happiness, making small sounds as though she was trying to talk back. Elena could hardly eat. She was too busy watching. When the meal ended, Elena could no longer hold back her questions. As Anna came to clear the table, Elena leaned forward and spoke quietly. What did you say to her? Her tone was calm, but her eyes carried intensity. Anna paused, her hands resting on the plates, then gave a gentle smile. I just said hello, she answered simply. Elena frowned slightly. Oh, it was more than that. She doesn't usually react this way. You said something that made her light up. I've seen her with therapists, doctors, teachers. None of them ever reached her like this. What did you do? For a moment, Anna looked thoughtful. She glanced at Lily, who was still watching her eagerly. Then back at Elena, her voice softened. I saw her heart before I saw anything else. She said nothing more, only smiled again before walking away with the plates. The words echoed in Elena's mind. I saw her heart before I saw anything else. They were simple, almost poetic, yet they carried a meaning Elena could not fully grasp. She sat there, stunned, watching Anna move around the restaurant, serving other customers as if nothing unusual had happened. On the way home, Elena's thoughts swirled like a storm. Gratitude was mixed with suspicion. She felt thankful for the joy Anna had given her daughter, but she also wondered how could a stranger connect so quickly. What was her secret? Was there something about Anna's past she didn't know? In the days that followed, Elena could not stay away. She returned to the restaurant again and again, sometimes with Lily, sometimes alone. Each time she brought her daughter, the same thing happened. Anna would kneel down, whisper softly, and Lily would respond with joy. It was as though they shared a language no one else could hear. Elena began observing more closely. She noticed that Anna's body language was gentle, her tone always calm, her smile never forced. She used her hands, her eyes, and small gestures when she spoke to Lily. It wasn't only about the words it was about the way she spoke, the way she truly paid attention. It reminded Elena of something she had once read about how children with communication struggles often responded more to emotions and expressions than to words themselves. But this wasn't something Anna had read in books. It was something she seemed to carry naturally, as if born with it. The more Alina watched, the more fascinated she became. Yet with fascination came unease. She was a woman who had built her life on control, on knowing every detail, on never leaving anything to chance. But here, in this tiny restaurant, she was powerless. A young waitress had done what all her money and resources had not. She had reached Lily. That thought humbled her. But it also unsettled her pride. One evening, after yet another visit, Alina sat by Lily's bedside as her daughter drifted to sleep. She brushed her hair gently and whispered, "What does she say to you, my love? What does she tell you that makes you so happy?" Lily, half asleep, made small sounds, her lips curving into a sleepy smile. Lena kissed her forehead, her heart swelling with love and frustration. She knew she couldn't ignore this any longer. Anna wasn't just a kind waitress. She was someone who held a key, a mystery that Alina needed to understand. She decided that the next time she visited, she would ask more directly, even if the young woman resisted. She had to know. The next day, Alina arrived earlier than usual, without Lily. She wanted to speak openly without her daughter listening. When Anna approached her table, Alina looked at her intently. "You've done something for my daughter that no one else has ever managed to do," she said softly. "I'm grateful, but I need to know how. You must tell me." Anna looked at her for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she gave the same gentle smile and shook her head slightly. "Sometimes it isn't about methods or techniques. Sometimes it's about seeing the person inside, not just what's outside." Her words were calm but carried a quiet weight. Alina leaned back, frustrated and amazed at the same time. She realized Anna wasn't hiding anything out of pride. She truly believed what she was saying. Yet Alina knew there was more, something deeper hidden in her past that allowed her to connect this way. She decided she wouldn't stop until she found out. In the days that followed, her visits became almost a routine. She and Lily would sit at the same table, and Alina would watch as her daughter grew happier each time, her responses stronger, her attempts at sounds clearer. It was as though Anna had awakened a part of her that had been silent for too long. Alina's gratitude grew, but so did her need for answers. She lay awake many nights, thinking about it. Why did this young woman care so much? Why did she give her time and attention so freely? Is it just kindness? Or was there a story behind it? Alina could feel it in her bones, and it carried something unspoken, something that connected her to Lily in a way no one else could. And though Anna had given her no explanation yet, Alina knew one thing for certain. Their lives had already begun to change because of that whisper. Days turned into weeks, and Alina kept returning to the restaurant. By now, it was no longer just about the food or the simple desire to take her daughter outside. It was about Anna. Each visit deepened the mystery, and each time Lily's face lit up with joy, Alina felt the same question burning inside her. Who is this young woman, and why does she understand my daughter in a way no one else does? One evening, after yet another visit where Lily had laughed and clapped more than usual, Alina decided she could no longer settle for vague answers. She waited until the restaurant grew quieter, when most of the tables were empty and Anna was tidying up for the night. With Lily sitting calmly beside her, Alina spoke in a gentle but firm voice. "Anna, please sit with us for a moment. I'd like to talk." Anna hesitated, looking around as if unsure whether it was allowed, then nodded and pulled out a chair. She sat across from Alina and Lily, folding her hands in her lap. There was a quietness in her eyes, the kind that belonged to someone who carried more stories than they shared. "I've watched you," Lena began softly, "and I've seen the way you connect with my daughter. It's not ordinary. She responds to you in a way she doesn't with anyone else, not even with me sometimes. I need to understand why. Please, tell me the truth. How do you do it?" For a moment, Anna didn't speak. She glanced at Lily, who was smiling at her with unblinking trust, and her expression softened. Then she took a deep breath, as though gathering strength to open a door she usually kept locked. "I had a brother," Anna said quietly. "His name was Daniel. He was younger than me, only by 2 years. He was born with the same condition as your daughter. People always said he would never live a normal life, that he would always struggle to be understood. But he was the brightest part of my childhood." Lena leaned forward, her heart tightening. She could already sense where the story was going. But she stayed silent, letting Anna continue. "When we were children, I became his voice," Anna said. "Our parents loved him, but they were busy working long hours just to keep food on the table. So it was me who spent the most time with him. I learned the small ways he expressed himself, the way his eyes moved, the way he tapped his fingers, the sounds he made when he was happy or upset. I started to understand him in ways no one else could. It wasn't something I read in a book or something a doctor taught me. It was something that grew between us because I loved him and he loved me. We created our own way of talking, a language built on patience and heart." Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke, but her eyes stayed steady. "For years, I was his protector. I sat with him in school when the teachers didn't know what to do. I defended him from other kids who teased him. I helped him eat when he couldn't use his hands properly. I celebrated every sound he made, every little victory that seemed small to the world, but meant everything to us. He taught me more about love than anyone else ever has." Alina felt her throat tighten. She reached for her daughter's hand, squeezing it gently, her eyes fixed on Anna's face. "What happened to him?" she asked softly, though part of her already dreaded the answer. Anna's eyes grew misty, and she looked down at her hands. "He got sick. One winter, he caught a very bad infection. His body was weaker than most children's, and he couldn't fight it. We lost him when he was just 11 years old." Her voice broke slightly, but she steadied herself. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. For a long time, I felt like the world had stolen him from me. But I promised myself something, that I would keep him alive in the way I treated others. I couldn't save him, but I could carry the lessons he gave me. Every time I see someone like him, I remember his smile, his courage, and I try to give a piece of that love back." The restaurant seemed utterly silent around them. Even the faint clatter from the kitchen felt far away. Alina sat still, her heart heavy with both sadness and awe. She had expected some kind of explanation, but not. This wasn't a technique or a trick, it was love born from loss, gift carried forward from a bond that had shaped Anna's soul. "So when I saw your daughter," Anna continued, looking up at Alina now, "I didn't see her condition first. I saw Daniel. I saw the same spark in her eyes, the same need to be understood, the same longing to be seen as more than her struggles. That's why I knelt down. That's why I whispered. I wasn't speaking to her disability, I was speaking to her heart, the way I used to speak to my brothers. And she responded because she could feel it. They always feel it when someone truly sees them." Tears welled in Elena's eyes. She blinked them back, unwilling to let them fall in front of a stranger, yet inside her heart was breaking open. All the years of guilt, the weight of isolation, the fear that no one would ever truly understand her daughter, suddenly, here was a young woman who did. Not because of training or professional skill, but because of love and pain and memory. Alina whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "You've given me something I can never repay. You've given my daughter a kind of connection I thought she might never have." Anna shook her head gently. "You don't owe me anything. I didn't do this for recognition. I can't help it. When I meet children like Lily, it feels like I'm meeting my brother all over again. Helping them is my way of keeping him alive." For the first time in a long while, Alina felt small. Not in a humiliating way, but in a humbling way. She had always been the woman who could buy her way through any obstacle, who could solve problems with wealth and influence. But here none of that mattered. A waitress in a modest restaurant had given her something her billions could not buy, a window into her daughter's soul. The three of them sat together for a while in quietness. Lily reached out with her small hand and touched Anna's fingers, as if sensing the weight of her story. Anna smiled through her tears and gently squeezed the little hand back. Alina watched the exchange with a heart that felt both heavy and light at the same time. That night, when Alina returned home, she lay awake, thinking about everything she had heard. She thought of Anna's brother, a boy she had never met but who had suddenly become part of her daughter's story. She thought of the years Anna had spent patiently learning a language of love no book could teach. She thought of her own daughter who had been waiting all along for someone to see her, not through the lens of doctors or conditions, but through the eyes of simple human connection. For the first time, Lena realized that she had been trying too hard to fix Lily instead of simply understanding her. She had focused so much on therapies, treatments, and progress charts that she sometimes forgot the power of being present, of listening beyond words. Anna had reminded her of something she had missed, that love in its purest form was the paustiest form, was the greatest teacher. The revelation changed something deep inside Lena. She knew she would never look at her daughter the same way again. And she knew she could not let Anna's gift remain only within the walls of that little restaurant. It had to go further, for Lily and for children like her everywhere. The days after Anna shared her story felt different for Alina. She woke up with a new sense of purpose, one she had not felt in years. The conversations in her boardrooms, the endless reports and profit numbers that used to dominate her life, no longer seemed as important as they once had. What stayed with her, what followed her into her dreams at night, and her thoughts during the day, was the image of her daughter smiling, responding, connecting something she had believed was almost impossible. It wasn't doctors or money that had made it happen. It was compassion. It was a young woman with no wealth, no status, no power in the world's eyes, but with a heart large enough to break through walls even professionals could not cross. Alina found herself spending more time with Lily, not as a task, not as a responsibility she had to manage, but as a choice filled with joy. She began noticing small things she had often overlooked. The way Lily's eyes sparkled when she saw birds outside the window. The soft humming sound she made when she was happy. The way she leaned her head gently against Elena's shoulder whenever she wanted comfort. Elena realized that for years, she had been searching for miracles in hospitals and clinics. But the true miracle was right in front of her, waiting only to be understood. Her visits to the restaurant continued, and with each visit, her bond with Anna grew stronger. They no longer spoke only in questions and guarded answers. Now they shared stories, laughter, even silences that felt comfortable. Anna treated Lily as if she were her own little sister, and Lily, in return, adored her. Alina watched as her daughter learned to respond to simple gestures, to express joy with clearer sounds, to show excitement with her hands and eyes. These were small steps, but to Alina, they were greater than any achievement she had ever earned in business. One evening, while driving home, Alina looked at her daughter sleeping peacefully in the car seat beside her and made a decision. She could not keep this discovery, this gift, only for herself. There were countless other children, like Lily in the world, and countless parents, who felt the same fear and helplessness she had lived with for years. If Anna's way of reaching her daughter could bring such light, then perhaps it could bring light to many others too. For the first time in her life, Alina saw a path that had nothing to do with profits or power. It had to do with legacy, with giving meaning to her fortune in a way that truly mattered. The very next week, she invited Anna to her mansion. The young waitress arrived nervously, clearly out of place in the grand surroundings, but Alina welcomed her warmly. She led her into the garden, where Lily was waiting under the shade of a large oak tree. The child lit up the moment she saw Anna, and the tension on Anna's face melted instantly as she rushed over to greet her. Alina watched them for a while before speaking. "Anna," she said softly, "I want to do something bigger than just meals at a restaurant. I want to build something lasting for children like Lily, for parents like me, for families who need hope. But I can't do it alone. I need your help." Anna looked startled. "My help?" "Yes," Alina said firmly. "You carry something inside you that no professional training can replace. You understand how to connect in ways others can't. I want you to lead a program, teach others what you know, share what you've learned from your brother and from your own heart. Together we can create a space where children like Lily can be seen, heard, and loved, not as patients, not as cases, but as people." For a long moment, Anna sat silent, her eyes filling with emotion. She had never imagined her simple way of loving and understanding could grow into something so large. "I'm just a waitress," she whispered. "No," Alina replied, shaking her head gently. "You are a teacher, even if you don't see it yet. You've taught my daughter something no one else has. And you've taught me, too, that love and patience are more powerful than anything money can buy. That makes you extraordinary." Tears slipped down Anna's cheeks as she nodded slowly. "If this can help other children like my brother, then yes, I'll do it." And so the seed was planted. Within months, Alina used her wealth to build a center unlike any other. Warm, welcoming space filled with colors, laughter, and learning. It was not designed like a hospital or a clinic. Instead, it felt like a second home for children and their families. There were play areas, quiet rooms, music corners, gardens where children could feel the sun on their faces, and spaces where parents could sit together, share their struggles, and find comfort in each other's stories. Anna became the heart of the program. She trained volunteers and caregivers, teaching them the simple but powerful ways she had learned with her brother, listening with patience, watching carefully for the small signs of expression, using gestures, tone, and presence, more than complicated words. She reminded everyone that these children did not need pity, they needed understanding. Under her guidance, the center grew into a place filled with hope. Children who had once been silent began to express themselves in small but meaningful ways. Parents who had felt alone found a community that lifted them up. Alina watched all of this with pride and humility. She no longer felt the same weight of guilt that had once haunted her. Instead, she felt a sense of peace, knowing she was using her wealth not just to build companies, but to build lives. The media, of course, eventually discovered her project, and headlines soon praised the billionaire for her charitable work. But Alina did not care about the praise. What mattered most was the look on Lily's face when she played with other children, when she laughed without fear, when she reached for Anna's hand and found someone who always understood her. Her world had changed completely. She no longer spent her nights restless and questioning. Instead, she spent them planning new ways to grow the center, new ways to reach more families. She had discovered a purpose far greater than business. She had discovered the power of compassion. For Anna, too, life transformed. She was no longer just a waitress in a small restaurant. She became a leader, a guide, and a voice for children like her brother. Though she still missed him deeply, she felt his presence in every smile she saw, in every child she helped. It was as if he lived on through the work she was doing, through the love she shared. And for Lily, the change was the most beautiful of all. She blossomed in ways Alina had never thought possible. She laughed more, expressed herself more, and for the first time, she began forming clearer words. They were small and imperfect, but to Alina, they were music. Each sound carried the promise that her daughter's world was opening wider, that she was no longer trapped in silence. What had begun as a simple meal in a modest restaurant had turned into the beginning of a new chapter for all of them. A billionaire mother who had once believed money could solve everything discovered that the true treasures of life could not be bought. A young woman who had once carried the quiet pain of losing her brother found a way to turn that pain into light for others. And a little girl who had once lived behind invisible walls now lived in a world filled with laughter, warmth, and understanding. Alina often thought back to that first whisper, the moment when everything began to change. The time she had not understood its meaning, but now she realized it was more than just words. It was a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures, the quietest voices, can create the biggest transformations. And in that realization she found peace, knowing her life's greatest success was not her empire, but the love she had finally learned to share.